The Cubs finally got the sweep that we've been looking for, and boy, was that an exhilarating game. The Cubs were down 10-3 at one point and soared back to beat the Pirates 14-10 to cap off the sweep on what was Christian Bethancourt's career day at the plate. We're going to talk about that and more as the Cubs climbed to 2 games above 500, and we're going to ask what that means as they move forward and try to make a playoff push. Here is your invitation to our show. Hey, Chicago, what do you say? The Cubs won a ball game, and it was quite a thrilling one. I'm here with Mick Gillespie. You can find him on Twitter at BroadcasterMick. I'm Anthony Pasquale, and you can find me at ant_Pasquale3. But, Mick, we were talking about how important it is for this team to get over the hump and finally sweep a team. Boy, they did that in a huge way yesterday.
Who would have saw that coming, too? I mean, it was a blowout. Like, they were getting blown out, and you don't win these games very often. I mean, you can go through season after season after season and not be down 10-3 and come back and win. In the business end of the game, which I call the 8th and 9th, they started in the 7th. But one of the most improbable wins I can ever remember. I mean, it's just crazy. I mean, you could watch baseball for a long time and not see a comeback like that.
Without a doubt. After trailing 10-3, like you said, they were down 10-3 in the 5th. They didn't score up until the 7th. So entering the 7th inning, the Cubs were down 10-3. They score 2 in the 7th, 3 in the 8th, and then 6 in the 9th. 2 to tie it and 4 for good measure to win the ball game 14-10. We'll get into some individual performances in just a second, but Mick, the Cubs scored 41 runs in that series in Pittsburgh. That's the most in the MLB in a 3-game series this season. This offense is clicking.
Yeah, well, I mean, they did it, and it wasn't just a couple guys. It wasn't just the top of the lineup. It was the entire lineup. And we've been waiting for this all year. When are these guys going to get going? But Pirates, I'm sitting here thinking, and, you and I were kind of talking off the air. Is it that the Cubs offense was that good or the Pirates pitching that bad? But even with bad pitching, you still got to have guys go out there. And how about Hollywood Pete, man? 4 for 4 in the game. I got hammered by some of you guys in the comments section for being like, hey, this channel's the Pete Crow-Armstrong channel. Since then, the guys look like Ted Williams. I mean, he's just getting hits all the time. You can see the light bulb coming on, and Bethancourt and and obviously Maya, like, kind of driving each other. Like, when one's not in, the other guy's doing something. Competition is so important when it comes to building a good team. And I feel like that's what's happening right here.
Yeah, no doubt. And like you said, it wasn't just a one-man show in any of the games this series. The Cubs have gotten contributions from all over. Suzuki had a couple homers in the series. Swanson homered in game 1 and game 2. But yesterday, Ian Happ got things going at the top of the order with 3 hits and 2 walks. So he's exuding why you have a guy like him up at the top of the order. Mike Tauchman, Seiya Suzuki, Cody Bellinger, and Dansby Swanson all had RBIs. And then you get to the 8 and 9 spot in the lineup. Hollywood Pete with 4 hits, and he came around to score all 4 times that he was on base. Absolutely huge. He's been, I think, over the last 10 games, good for a 1.4 WAR, which is just insane. Like, on the pace of a full season, he'd be a 7 WAR guy, which is unbelievable. And that's not even the storyline of the game. Christian Bethancourt, 7 RBIs in the 9 spot. He was 3 for 5. He hit the 2-run homer to get the comeback going. And then he punctuated the comeback with a 2-run single to give the Cubs the lead. Drove in 7 runs out of the 9 spot. I think I heard on the radio he's the 7th catcher in Cubs history to drive in 7 runs, but the first one to do so out of the 9 spot in the order. Man, Hollywood Pete and Christian Bethancourt have a day.
Yeah, well, it was Amaya that was kind of just picking it up there before, too. But the bottom of the lineup has been just so anemic over the course of the season. And now that they're doing something, it's making this team a lot better. So this really is a phenomenal comeback. I mean, they still have a mile to go to get back into really the playoff picture, but you get over 500. I mean, I said this all the time. You get over 500 and all of a sudden you're in it again. And there's still enough time that if they figure out a way to win games, you build some momentum off of a win like this. And I mean, man, you can really do some big stuff. I mean, it's not over till it's over. And who cares what this says? Well, it's like 97% or 96%. You go out there and win these games, and the rest of it starts to fall into place. This team's got to have confidence with the way that they've taken care of business against these bad teams, but they needed the sweep, and they finally got one, and it couldn't have come in a more improbable way.
Yeah, you mentioned it. I don't know if you follow Chief Cub on Twitter, but he always posts some pretty good stats. And yesterday he said, on this day last year, the Cubs had a 78% chance to make the playoffs and didn't make it. So a lot can happen in 1 month, man. And the Cubs, you're going to see in a few slides, the Cubs are at like 4-point-something%, but that can skyrocket after a couple of good weeks of playing ball and maybe bad weeks from either the Brewers or the Braves. So we'll see what happens. But I want to ask you this. We're talking about Bethancourt and Amaya. We're talking about Crow-Armstrong. Obviously, that bottom of the order has become a strength. At what point do you think about moving those guys up in the order, or do you say, don't touch it, it's been working, keep it like that?
I think eventually Crow-Armstrong's your leadoff guy.
This year, eventually? Or like,
well, I don't know. I mean, I think that I don't think it would. I mean, eventually he is. I mean, when do you feel like he's ready for that? You know, when's he going to take enough pitches and get the walks and kind of get on base and all of those things? So, you know, I think that it's going to happen. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen. And but right now, look, if you're playing good baseball without it, then don't worry about it.
Yeah, if it's not broke, don't fix it. My other question for you is about Kyle Hendricks. He started the game yesterday. An inning and 2/3 is what he gave you. 8 hits, 6 earned runs, 3 walks. So 11 base runners, and it only took him 5 outs to put that type of traffic on the bases. Granted, a misplay between Dansby Swanson and Isaac Paredes could have gotten him out of that second inning, only having given up 3 instead of 6, but still he wasn't particularly sharp. My question to you is, if you are trying to make a playoff push, can you afford to keep running this guy out every 5th day? Do you have any other options?
Man, we've talked about this all year. I mean, this is a tough deal because we all love what Kyle Hendricks represents, but his finer days in the game are over, you know, and it's trying to find a spot where you can actually utilize a guy that you paid $16 million on. Every time he goes out, it's just kind of like walking on thin ice, you know, and the days of him being able to go out and dominate are over. But you know what? I mean, I don't know what the other options are, to be honest with you. I mean, who else are you going to throw out in that spot?
Exactly. And that's the thing. Ben Brown is likely to miss the rest of the season with his injury. Jordan Wicks is still rehabbing. Hayden Wesneski is still rehabbing. Cade Horton is still rehabbing. I know earlier this season you would have expected Horton to be pitching by now at the back end of that rotation. But here's a name. I saw Alex Cohen tweet about him on the AAA roster, Brandon Birdsell. I'm curious if you're familiar with him at all. I guess in his last 5 starts, he's pitched 29 2/3 innings, only 6 earned runs. In his last 2 starts, 12 innings, no runs. Is that a guy that could come up in September, you think?
I mean, look, I like Brandon Birdsell. He's a guy that throws a 4-seam fastball. When he keeps it up in the zone, he's really tough to get, to hit off of. And that's really his bread and butter, like the deception of that 4-seam fastball up. And when he's able to throw it up, the spin makes it look like it's going to fall down, and it doesn't. It doesn't surprise me that he has had success there. He's a big league starter. I don't know when he's going to be ready. He's not one of these guys that comes in with a bunch of the prospect hype, but he's a good pitcher and a great competitor. And so maybe he is an option. I don't know. I mean, the thing about it is there's going to be growing pains there, like a lot of these young guys. So how much are you willing to say, okay, we're going to work with this when you don't have any room for error? I mean, unless you're not thinking that you really have a realistic chance to make the playoffs, then maybe this is a great time to let him get some opportunities.
Yeah, that'll definitely be something to keep our eyes on. I know September is right around the corner, but after the sweep, the Cubs have now improved to 20-26 against the NL Central. And I said this yesterday. I know that number doesn't look too good, but at one point it was 13-25. So the Cubs are 7-1 in their last 8 against the Central. That place, and that's a big reason why they've climbed up to second place. They are now 2 games over 500 after the sweep. They're on a 4-series win streak.
I
And
mean,
they
think
still,
about Ant, let me just interrupt you, man. Think about the fact that these guys were down 10-3 and they ended up winning 14-10.
yeah,
I mean, going into the 7th inning, you're down 10-3 and you win. Like, just watching that game, I'm like, okay, you always get like you kind of get that fake rally. Our friend at Bleacher Nation, he's always like, Brad, he's always like, another fake rally,
yeah.
They didn't fake the rally today, which is incredible. And I mean, it couldn't have been any better.
Without a doubt. And that's the best part about it is they completed it. And, you thought the 2 runs in the 7th that made it 10-5. You're like, all right, man, this is going to be a little bit more respectable. Then they put up 3 in the 8th. It's like, all right, are we really going to lose this 10-8? Where could it have gone better at some point where 8 is enough to win you the game? Then they put another 6 up in the 9th. And you're like, all right, everybody's off the hook. This is a huge win. Also a really good time for an off day after all that emotion and using all those pitchers. The Cubs are off on Thursday. Then they play the Nationals this weekend. So a good time for an off day. But the Cubs are now in second place, 8.5 back of Milwaukee. So they're trimming that number a little bit. And 5 games back in the NL wild card, chasing the Braves still. They're still maintaining some ground on the Mets as well. And they're up to a 4.5% chance to make the playoffs now, which is getting better.
4.5% chance. So what is that still? 95.6% chance that they're not going to make it. But you know what? When you're over 500 to me this late in the season, you still got a chance. So got to give them credit for that.
I think we can firmly say, especially after a comeback like that can give you that type of confidence. I think we could say they have a chance. I'm not saying it's a high chance or a likely chance, but they do have a chance. And that's all you can ask for heading into September baseball.
You and I need to get I'll wear the orange suit and you wear the blue tuxedo and we'll say, hey, so you're saying there's a chance. No,
exactly.
I honestly, man, I'm not counting them out. I'm not. I mean, it's baseball. It's a sport. If you go out there and you win these games, every time you win, you're going to turn around and you can make a big jump based on what some of the other teams are doing. And if you just keep winning, you keep putting the pressure on, they're going to have to get to about 10 games over 500 to really be a contender right now. But anything can happen. I mean, they're playing very bad teams. They just got to we've been saying it, just sweep. Now, I didn't know it was going to happen like this, but maybe this sweep is the thing that leads these guys. When you overcome a 7-run deficit and still win by 4, I'm impressed.
Yeah, off Thursday, then you've got 3 against the Nationals in D.C., then 3 at home against these Pirates again, then another off day, then you have the most challenging stretch of the season, 3 against the Yankees, 3 against the Dodgers, then another off day, and then 12 straight against the Rockies, A's, and Nationals. So if you could, play your cards right, maybe win a series against the Yankees or Dodgers and keep beating up on these bad teams, you're going to head into that last week of September with what I believe will be a chance, especially since the Braves schedule gets a little bit tougher coming up. So it's something to be excited about and definitely a lot to talk about without a doubt.
Yeah. Hey, fun day today or yesterday, fun day, fun win. One of those games that you as a Cubs fan, you just you just remember you rival in, the fact that the team didn't give up. And I got to give them credit. There were times this season where they played like they didn't care too much and like a dead fish. But today is why you watch the games. Today's why you're a fan. This was a go in the backyard with the wiffle ball set and, pretend you're Christian Bethancourt,
exactly.
like driving a bunch of runs.
Yeah. And that's what makes it so special. And I think everybody enjoyed it, whether you were at work or getting to watch it, just checking your phone, seeing, all right, 10-5. Okay. 10-8. Holy 14-10. It feels like a Bears Steelers score. And instead it's the Cubs Pirates, but they get the win and they get the sweep, which is huge. We've been asking for it. So enjoy the day off. and back at it tomorrow against the Nationals, hopefully to keep the hot streak alive. But guys, thanks so much for joining us on the Cubs Baseball channel. We appreciate it always. Make sure to keep liking and subscribing and getting in those comment sections. Let us know if you think there's a chance. Are we being a little bit too positive? I don't think so, but you guys could tell us if you don't think the Cubs have a shot. But hey, if you can come back from down 7, you can beat anybody, hopefully. So hopefully they can keep doing that. But for now, go Cubs.
Go Cubs.